This is Erin, Borror, economist for the U.S. Meat Export Federation. Today we are discussing the global and U.S. pork and beef outlooks, starting first with pork. U.S. pork production has been growing at a faster and more consistent rate than any other major exporting region. Since 2015, U.S. pork output has increased by an average of 3.7% per year, including the forecast for this year. This means U.S. hog slaughter has increased by 3 million head per year for the past 3 years, and additional plant capacity has been the foundation for expansion. U.S. productivity is also increasing with larger pigs per litter and heavier hog weights, meaning we can produce more pork from fewer animals. And the U.S. is producing more with fewer resources. Today's pigs need less than 3 pounds of feed to produce 1 pound of pork. This, coupled with big gains in maternal traits such as pigs per litter, allow pork's overall productivity and thus sustainability to improve. The additional plant capacity was built with the eye to the export market, and China in particular, realizing that U.S. per capita pork consumption is not expected to grow significantly, and that there is vast potential for consumption growth outside the United States. Supplies of pork per person in the U.S. are expected to hold relatively steady at 20.6 kilograms as increased exports offset the growth in U.S. production. Per capita supplies remain much higher than in the years of 2010 through 2014 and suggest the U.S. could export even more pork if there were higher prices in the international market as compared to the domestic market. Exports account for about 22.5% of U.S. pork muscle cut production, and the majority of offal or variety meat production is exported, bringing the total to 26% of production bound for the international marketplace. U.S. exports in 2019 are largely impacted by the retaliatory tariffs in China and Mexico, as well as the lack of a free trade agreement with Japan. But given the looming shortage in China's pork industry, global pork trade will be record large this year, growing from about 8 million tons in 2018 to more than 10 million tons in 2019, or an increase of 25%. Global exports to China and Hong Kong could increase by 73% to about 4.5 million metric tons. But even this strong growth in global exports to China is not likely to offset the decrease in production. The extent to which U.S. exports grow depends on when and if the retaliatory duties are removed. But there is no question that the U.S. is the best positioned to meet China's demand from a fundamental supply basis. USMEF forecasts assume China's retaliatory tariffs will be removed by June, and exports of pork and pork variety meats to China and Hong Kong will increase to nearly 650,000 metric tons, up 84% from 2018 and about 100,000 metric tons more than the 2016 export record. This drives total U.S. pork exports up 14% to 2.9 million metric tons. Supplies of pork per person in China are estimated to decrease by several kilograms if China's production decreases by 20%, because there is not enough pork in the world to offset China's shortage. Even if poultry imports recover to the 2011 high and beef imports also continue to grow, it will not be enough to offset the decrease in pork. This will and has driven prices higher in the US, the EU, Canada, and Brazil, the major exporting countries, as the market seeks to ration supplies and signal the need for production growth. And the pork shortage will incentivize continued growth in China's imports of beef. Again, globally, the U.S. is the best positioned to meet China's growing demand for high-quality beef. Although retaliatory tariffs and other barriers continue to limit overall volumes, the U.S. is the leading global beef production growth and is by far the largest producer of beef in the world. The majority, or around 80% of U.S. beef production, is grain-finished, with the remainder coming from non-fed cows and bulls. Of U.S. fed beef production, 71.2% is currently grading choice, 9.3% grading prime, and 15.8% select. And within the choice grade, 32.5% is grading in the upper two-thirds choice. The U.S. has continuously increased its production of choice and higher grading beef through constant improvement in genetics, feeding, animal handling and care, and recently a larger share of females in the harvest mix have also contributed to higher quality grades. The U.S. is the largest exporter in the world on a value basis, with exports setting another record in 2018 at $8.3 billion, $1 billion or 15% increase over the 2017 record. And the U.S. is by far the largest exporter of grain-fed beef, including to Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, but with the exception of China, where Australia is number 1. Exports account for about 11% of U.S. beef cut production, and the majority of variety meats are exported, bringing the total to about 13.5% of production bound for the international marketplace. We expect continued growth in U.S. beef exports this year, increasing by about 6% to 1.43 million metric tons, valued at $8.9 billion. If China's retaliatory duties are removed by June and there is some improvement in the market access conditions, U.S. exports to China could increase to around 14,000 tons, roughly double last year. But growth would be much more dramatic if China's import protocol mirrored that of the other major Asian import markets. The growth in U.S. beef production in 2019 is expected to be between 1% and 2%. Cattle on feed inventories are currently large and are expected to increase further, with big numbers of cattle entering feedlots from April to June. And with the 6% increase in exports, per capita supplies of beef in the U.S. will be relatively steady this year at around 26 kilograms. U.S. cattle and beef prices have been trending higher due to favorable domestic and international demand, including for the grilling season kicking off officially in late May with the Memorial Day holiday in the U.S. Ribeye prices are one indicator of strong grilling season demand. Most U.S. analysts expect the U.S. beef cow herd to stabilize following several years of expansion, and inventory could grow again if feeder cattle prices remain strong and incentivize heifer retention. U.S. beef producers are also producing more beef with fewer resources, and are already the most efficient producers in the world, producing more beef with fewer cows. Sustainability of the U.S. beef and pork production is essential to the future of the red meat industry. Farmers and ranchers work hard every day to increase productivity and product quality for our international and domestic customers. The international business is also critical to the sustainability of our industry, as customers in China and around the world have preferences for different cuts and products, and this allows us to maximize the value of every animal we produce. Thank you for your partnership, and we look forward to an even brighter future where affordable, high-quality U.S. red meat is increasingly available in China for your enjoyment and prosperity.